What's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Plan. Today we're going to be reviewing the brightest light I've ever reviewed. Let's check it out. Alright, this light we're going to be looking at today is from FloraFlex. They were kind enough to send this to me and sponsor this video. They are a huge help to the channel. They're like basically helping me afford a lot of this tissue culture stuff that we're going to be doing in the future. But also, I want to tell you that they do have a website and they are US based. I always like dealing with like domestic brands just because they're a lot easier to contact if you have any issues, and it's just a better all experience in my opinion. Nothing against foreign brands, but it's just nice to know that they're from the US. They also have a lot of really awesome hydroponic stuff, so let's I guess get to this unboxing. But yeah, this is by far one of the best lights I've unboxed and used, and I'm currently using it right now on the Great Pothos race, so it's awesome. This is a pretty well packed light, and you'll see that right off the bat here. They get everything in quite a small box, and it does come in like a blackout bag if you're concerned about people seeing like what you're getting delivered to your house. Some people have that concern depending on the state they're living in. For me, I don't care because I'm just growing house plants underneath this and tropical plants specifically. But you can see it's been packaged really well, and there's a feature on here that I love that I'm seeing right off the bat, and that is these awesome plastic covers on the actual LEDs. Whenever I unbox other lights, they're always exposed, or there's just a very thin plastic coating or covering on it, like almost like a bag. But these have like a nice hard plastic that really protects it while it's shipping, and as you assemble it, you don't have to worry about hitting those diodes, which is fantastic. Whenever I unbox or review other lights, I'm always paranoid about like knocking one of those little chips off because they're very exposed. So that is a really cool feature that I love to see. This light is one that you assemble yourself, however it is really easy, and they came up with some really unique ideas to make the assembly process very simple, and honestly I really love it. So let's go over all the parts you're going to get in this box so you just know what you're getting prepared for, and then you know how to really assemble this thing. So the first thing is going to be 8 of the actual like light LED diode bars. These are where all the light's going to come from, and then the remainder of the parts are really going to be facilitating these light bars. These are really thin and really light, and they're pretty darn awesome. They do have a mix of like warm and cool LEDs. They are full spectrum, and then they do have like a red LED in between each little set. So it's got pretty much everything you're going to need to grow plants. The spectrum should be pretty much perfect. If you want more specifications, you can definitely visit their website. They do have like diagrams and specific readings, so you can get a little more of a exact reference as to what is on these boards. The next item is going to be the 2 structural bars. These are what's going to tie everything together, that being the actual like light bars, the power pack, and just the hanging stuff. It's all tied to this. And again, these are really thin and light as well. The next big thing is going to be the driver. This is probably one of the more important features because this is what's going to power everything. This thing is a beast. I mean, it is huge. I'm not worried about this one at all. I feel like this thing's probably got plenty of power in it. I know some of the other lights I've reviewed in the past, they kind of cheap out and they use one that might not totally be rated for what they're trying to power, but this thing is beefy, it's huge, and it's awesome. It also comes with a little cable. This would be for if you're getting multiples, you can link them together so one is the master and the rest are slaves. That way you can just control them all from one spot and you're not constantly like running up there and flipping switches on each independent light, if that makes sense. It comes with 2 little brackets, and that'll be optional if you want to put the actual driver right on the light, or you will have the ability to put it off to the side, which is nice, and you'll see I end up doing that later on. It does come with hanging hardware, and it comes with hardware for if you're going to mount the actual driver elsewhere, and then all the other little pieces that you're going to need to assemble it. It does come with 3 cords, and you'll see why they are the lengths they are. They allow you to get that driver apart, or you can mount it straight to it, so you have options, which is really good. Alright, now for assembly, this is actually insanely easy, and the best part is you don't need any tools. I did see some stuff on their Instagram page. Someone was complaining about that, which seemed crazy to me because it's a really amazing feature and it's going to come in handy later when I go to install this thing. I don't have to dig out tools or anything. I can assemble this thing completely. I can modify it later, and you'll see how I do that, but I love like toolless assembly. It's fantastic. Why make something that you need all these additional things to support it with when you can just use the things that God gave you, which are your fingers? So basically, you're going to take these 8 light bars and align them as you see on the screen. The ones with the 2 additional posts on them are going to be the outer ones, and the ones with only 1 post will be the inner ones. So you can see this in the instructions. It's very clear and easy, but this is how you do it. Next, you're going to take your 2 connecting bars. These are like what holds everything together, and there is no wrong way to put it on. Basically, it can go either way. Obviously, you do have to put one side up, and you'll see where the hanging hardware is, but basically everything is going to be pointed up versus the LEDs being pointed down. So you're going to get these 2 threaded in there, and it's all it is lining up the holes. It is very simple, very easy, and once you get those 2 on there, now we can begin to screw them together. And here's where we can see that it is all toolless. They have these really awesome wing nuts that just make this so simple to put together. You don't need Allen wrenches, you don't need a screwdriver, you don't need a drill, nothing. All you need is your 2 fingers and you can just screw them all together, and it makes it for a fantastic, easy build. Just a quick tip here that you may not realize it right away, but when you tighten the first one, then you'll tighten the second one. Go back and just give that first one a little bit more of a tightening, because as you tighten both of them down, it will flex the aluminum a little bit and it will sort of loosen the previous one, if that makes sense. So just check them both, make sure none are loose. It really shouldn't matter because there's no vibrations or anything, so it's not like it's going to fall apart. But basically, all the studs that are sitting up through those connecting bars, you're just going to put the wing nuts on. It's really easy. Again, all you got to do is get them hand tight. Nothing crazy, nothing special. All right, next up, this is optional. I did go with this method at first. However, I did change my mind later as I put it in my grow tent, which you will see. But to mount this on, you take these two little brackets. They do have a sort of like L-shaped cutout, and you're just going to slide that in the slots on the bars that hold everything together. And once you've got that, you can sort of flip the whole thing upside down, and that'll give you access to the little thumb screws that are going to go through the hole in the bracket into the actual driver. And again, it's all toolless. You can just use your fingers to screw this together. And again, it came in super awesome handy earlier when I actually put this up in my grow tent because I needed to take it off. I decided it was getting in the way of the ceiling, and I didn't have to dig out any tools. I could just unscrew it really fast. It was awesome. Now, once you have everything assembled, all you're going to do is connect all the plugs. And again, they're very obvious. The plugs that are going to hook into each LED bar, they are male and female, and there is a specific way they go in, and you can't accidentally put it in the wrong way because they are uniquely shaped where they can only go in one way, so it's very easy to insert. They plug and snap in really nicely, and again, a very simple addition. It's not like a hard thing to do, and then you're just going to plug this into the actual unit, the driver, and there is an output and input, so just make sure that you're plugging this into the output. Now with the actual leftover cord, because again, you might want to mount this somewhere else, which is why you get a long cord, which you will see how I use that later, because that's what I end up doing. But for now, I just wrap the cord around really nicely, and it keeps it nice and clean. You could use a rubber band or some other zip tie or something to make it nice and neat, but I found that it hooks around these almost perfectly where there's not too much tension on the wires, but it keeps everything tidy. And then lastly, you're just going to take your power cord and connect it to the actual input, and that is it for assembly. And then next up is just going to be hanging it. But let's just take a look at this functional light first before we get anywhere about hanging it or anything too far ahead. Let's just check it out. Now, when I went to test this out initially, I left those little covers on there, but even with that, it was insanely bright. I'm pretty sure this is the brightest light I've ever used. It's almost blinding, so you definitely want to wear sunglasses or something as you mess around with this and not look directly into it. It's incredible. And it's very warm, you can just feel the heat from the light, so it has got some energy behind it. It's actually pretty darn impressive. But yeah, once I took all the little plastic coverings on, it was just even more brighter, and just wild how bright this thing can be. And again, I love that it's all spread out nice and evenly, because you're going to get a nice spread inside any sort of grow tent or wherever you're using it. It's not all centralized, so it's going to be perfect. Now, I did have to modify the exposure of the camera so we could actually see the LEDs without them just being blown out. And honestly, I had to use the ND filters on my camera. So what those are is basically sunglass lenses inside the camera to just reduce the exposure even further, which was absolutely funny and wild that I had to do that. But you can see the nice color mix here that we got going on. It is definitely a nice full spectrum light, and the light is intense. Like usual, I do like to hook it up to a watt meter just to see what the settings are and kind of where you're looking at for watt usage and light output. So we'll get that hooked up and check that out. On its lowest setting, it is at 212 watts. So if you don't want to just be burning that full 700 watts of power all the time, you do have some situations where you can make it a lot less. The next setting is going to be about 350 watts. And then finally, it goes right up to 730. Now, this is advertised as a 700 watt light. My watt meter might be a little off. I'm really not sure exactly how accurate it is, especially when you start getting up there. And it's pretty old, but again, you're getting at least 700, if not more, which who's going to complain about more? So it is definitely a darn bright light, and it does the wattage that it claims to do. So that's fantastic. Alright, here's what it looks like when it's actually hanging. I've got this in more of an empty area so you can see it much better before I put it up in the grow tent. But one thing to really notice is how absolutely thin this light is. It is insane. You can see that the extrusion, this aluminum extrusion, is just extremely thin. It's really awesome, and it saves a ton of vertical space. Once I actually take the driver off the top, you'll see that I can get this thing so high up in the grow tent that I have insane vertical space. And that's great for me because in my smaller basement with the low ceiling heights, I'm always fighting for vertical space, so I'm always appreciative of anything thin. Some of the other models I've tried in the past are quite bulky, but again, this one is very thin, light, but yet ultra sturdy. So I've already made a video about this grow tent that I've been using to try and get some of my tropical plants in a little bit warmer of an environment. However, the light I have in there is a little bit too small. Well, actually, it's a lot of bit too small for the size of this tent, and I can't keep it warm. And also the light is just lacking for what I'm expecting and what I want. So I think this light is going to fill this thing out absolutely perfect, and we're going to have a nice even spread across the entire gamut. Now, like I talked before, because I didn't need any tools, I was able to literally remove it on the fly without even thinking. It was absolutely beautiful and wonderful, and just made the process so simple and easy to make that decision. You can see it hanging up there right now. It's absolutely beautifully, perfectly put up there. It's using up almost no vertical space because, again, it is so skinny. With that driver out on the outer parts, it's absolutely perfect. I've been using this light for a little bit now, and it's keeping the heat like I want, and the humidity is staying up, and I'm loving it. And the giant pothos that I've been growing for the Great Pothos race is doing great under this light as well. So I can't wait to see this thing explode even further and just see what kind of results we get out of this light. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was pretty cool to use this light. It is so bright and so awesome. I cannot wait to see its effectiveness in that really large 4x4 terrarium, or maybe it's a 5x5. Just where I've been keeping most of my plants. It'll be good to see that extra heat is what I'm really looking for, but also that extra light output. And again, it's good that I can adjust it because I think full blast might be a little overkill for the aeroids, but I don't know. Since it'll be so high up and it's got a lot of coverage, I think it's actually going to be perfect. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, may your plants go strong and healthy. Keep experimenting. I'll see you next time.